The US President Donald Trump's pause on Liberation Day tariffs is set to end on July the 9th. Before he makes his next move, let's review the president's art of the deal. First, being predictably unpredictable is part of his negotiation strategy. Trump keeps on changing his mind, making it harder for any counterparty to come up with an effective reaction.
It's kind of a yo-yo policy. Tariffs are on, they're off, they're up, they're down, they're large, they're small, there are exemptions, there are no exemptions. Every few days there's a new thing. So it's very hard to predict.
Unpredictability helps Trump's game. He derails timelines, forces panic, and then pockets the concessions. Just look at what happened during his negotiations with the EU.
Quel est notre objectif? D'avoir un cadre d'investissement.
What is our objective? To have a peaceful framework for investment and trade with the United States of America. That is what we believe in, fair and equitable competition.
Macron says Europe wants a peaceful, fair, and equitable deal. But did the outcome of the negotiations match the intention? Let's wind back. On March the 12th, the EU retaliated with billions of dollars of counter tariffs on US goods, although paused until April the 1st in a show of restraint. Trump's response? A 200% tax on Europe's liquid pride. Spoiler alert, this wasn't about free trade, it was about control. And what happened next? On April the 9th, Trump backed down, bringing tariffs down to a universal 10%, excluding China, and set July the 8th as the next day for negotiation. In response, the next day, the EU also paused its reciprocal tariffs. But the twist came on May the 23rd, when Trump launched a tirade of complaints about the talks, which sent the EU into disarray.
I'm not looking for a deal. We've set the deal, it's at 50%.
Trump claimed that discussions were going nowhere and raised the rate 5 votes from 10% to 50%, while also bringing the deadline 1 week forward. But the bloc rushed to calm his nerves. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called Trump to ask for a delay. And although she got what she asked for, Trump was not slow to show that his trick had achieved its desired effect.
They called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till June 9. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want.
And there, Trump took full advantage of the opportunity to put the cat among the pigeons.
So they're back to July 9th for the new tariffs, but he's leaving it at 50%. So the threat is bigger than it was before, but the timing is the same as it was before.
Trump bragged that he had played it perfectly.
It's called negotiation. They wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff.
So there you go. Peace-seeking Europe tries to play it by the book in a friendly spirit, only to have his timeline toppled by Trump's unpredictability. And in the end, the EU had to give in to what Trump wanted. What's more, Trump firing a big opening salvo forced some countries to show their hands. The EU went straight to their best-case offer: zero tariffs.
We have put forward a 0-for-0 offer, zero tariffs on both sides of the Atlantic. We're ready to eliminate tariffs on industrial goods.
Trade offer already on the table. French President Emmanuel Macron rushed to remind Europe to pace itself and hold back its cards for future leverage.
Parce que nous avons une force.
It's important that we pause future investments or those announced in recent weeks until we have clarified things with the United States.
C'est plus que le marché américain.
Based on this history, what advice can be offered to anyone negotiating with Trump? Be strategically patient. The US president tests his counterparts by creating chaos and pressing for concessions, while filling out the dynamic. His second overarching strategy is to start with maximum pressure and amplify fear. A fellow from the Peterson Institute for International Economics breaks it down.
You threaten the other side, you say you're willing to go to this threat point, which obviously would hurt the US, to show that you're serious about getting things.
Even if it doesn't follow through, merely floating the possibility sends shockwaves. Coupled with the threats of harsher punishment for retaliation, many countries hesitate, fearing worse consequences if they fight back.
I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate because I told them if you retaliate, we're going to double it.
Trump's strategy breeds helplessness. Retaliate, you risk even steeper costs. Stay silent, you have to endure the pain and hope it stops. This isn't new. Even Trump's former vice president admits it.
During our administration, we used the threat of tariffs very effectively.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was also stunned by how well Trump's pressure tactic worked.
And I look at these proposals and I think these are excellent proposals, but I wonder, how did we get here? How did the previous administrations allow this to happen to the American people?
Fearing uncertainty, many nations settle for less rather than push back, as Bessent bluntly warned after Trump's Liberation Day statement.
I wouldn't try to retaliate. As long as you don't retaliate, this is the high end of the number.
This is learned helplessness, especially for smaller economies facing the U.S. behemoth. So, what's the alternative? Strength in numbers. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, is leading the charge.
We are thankful for the spirit of centrality and the fraternity among ASEAN member states in being able to come together to forge a common front in dealing with these challenges.
After Trump's tariff announcement, Southeast Asian nations scrambled to negotiate. But few succeeded. Plus, tariff rates slapped on ASEAN countries differ drastically, from the lowest 10% for Singapore to the highest 49% for Cambodia. This uneven treatment makes collective bargaining essential. ASEAN now plans to present a united front to the US.
The consensus achieved by the foreign ministers in Langkawi earlier this year, I've taken the liberty also to write to President Donald J. Trump to seek his understanding to organize a US-ASEAN meeting.
Trump's third tactic: bully the weak and fear the strong. Japan, a key security ally of the US, faced high-stake negotiations. Officials struck a cooperative tone.
We seek a win-win solution, one that benefits both Japan and the US.
But goodwill alone wasn't enough. Japan's leverage? Here are the top 10 creditors of US Treasury bonds. Which country sits on top? Japan. When asked if Japan could use its massive treasury holding as leverage, the Japanese finance minister responded as follows.
Our bond holdings are a card we could play, but using it is another decision.
Points. There's a lot of red on this board.
Today, it challenged that, but look at how it reversed.
The sell-off spiked US borrowing costs, forcing Trump to soften his stance.
Bond market is very tricky, but yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy.
Japan balanced pressure with promises, be it existing ones.
I'm now excited to commit this $100 billion and 100,000 jobs into the United States.
Or future ones.
If I may repeat myself, it's investment over tariffs. How can Japan invest to create more U.S. jobs?
That, along with Japan's offer of shipbuilding cooperation, a joint sovereign wealth fund, and more farm purchases, was a strategy of collaboration. With teeth. Other nations took a softer approach. The UK's royal diplomacy and praise won concessions.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
Tribute to both teams, tribute to our countries, and tribute to your leadership.
A senior figure at the Chatham House explains.
Its approach to the Trump administration, engaging to some degree in kind of flattery and not responding to every outrageous thing that Trump says, has yielded some dividends. Trump personally seems to have some fondness for the UK and some sense that there's a historic relationship between the UK and the US.
But what if there's no such historic ties? Try grand gestures. Trump returned from the Middle East, claiming $1.4 trillion in UAE investment and $600 billion in Saudi deals. But skepticism lingers. Trump says the UAE will invest $1.4 trillion in the US AI sector over the next decade, but the UAE's annual GDP around $500 billion. Trump also announced Saudi Arabia's commitment to invest $600 billion in the US. Saudi's annual GDP in 2023 around $1 trillion. So while the investment figures sound great, the possibility of them being realized remains in doubt. Or what about shifting the goal to just making the man happy?
We begin tonight with the Pentagon officially accepting.
Right, this morning, new CNN reporting on the giant 747.
Surrounding the Qatari 747 plane.
When asked about the gifted jet, Trump seemed to take it lightly, slamming reporters for asking the questions.
They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much.
From here, we can summarize Trump's decision-making matrix. If you're powerful and play hard with him, he softens. If you're powerful and play soft with him, he takes advantage. If you're less powerful and play soft, giving him advantage, he takes it. And if you're less powerful and play hard, he destroys you. And what to do if you don't want to bow? You build alliance and play the numbers game, collaborating with other like-minded countries to form a bloc. From unpredictability to imposing maximum pressure, Trump's track record indicates that he backs down when confronted with a tough, collective, and reciprocal response. For countries stuck between response and retaliation, wondering how to respond to Trump's opening salvo in negotiations, his dealings show that they are productive ways to respond, and that collaboration is the best strategy to navigate a world left confused by an America that is unilateral and protectionist.